So I have to say, this one was a strange one to review. This album apparently came out in August. I had heard about it in the last few weeks, decided to put it on, and I have to tell you, my first initial reactions was I didn't care for it, and I'm not sure if, again, a lot of your opinions about things on your first impressions are usually wrong. It also is heavily dependent on your mindset, where you're at, the things going on around you, whether or not you're going to be able to even pay attention and catch up with the deeper themes and meanings in especially music, but all things, when you're not completely engrossed in what you're trying to observe or listen to. With that being said, I have sat with this album for about 2 weeks now, and I have to say, again, it is a strange one for me to review because it's not my place to shit on anybody or their creative process or their art direction. It's easy to do that. It's easy to just pick apart anything. Anybody can be a critic. In today's world, it's becoming harder and harder to be positive, and it's even more difficult to be constructive and be positive and try to give people a legitimate review of things that maybe you don't like without sounding like you're trying to tear them down or be negative. So with that sort of out of the way, I guess, it brings me into the review of this album. I've been a fan of Tyrese for as long as I can remember. I mean, back from, his Watts days. It's pre-Baby Boy. I'm getting a little older now, so I could, I was back around those days. Now, my first impression, when I first put this on, is this isn't the same Tyrese that I knew from even Black Rose, which is an album that I didn't necessarily care for. The album before that, Open Invitation, only had a few tracks on it that it really was just one. It was the album, the track called Stay, which it doesn't matter. The point of it is I've been listening to him for a long time, and this album, when I first put it on, wasn't exactly what I was expecting, and it sort of shied me away from it. So I put it back on a few days later, and I tried to give it a good solid listen through, and I'll be the first to admit I had a hard time still getting to this album, even after sitting with it in my headphones in my car. And that doesn't mean that it's not good. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't give it your time. This is a different artist and sound that not only was I expecting, but that what I usually listen to. So I had to take my time and listen a little bit harder for his message, his story that he was trying to tell. Because sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it isn't. Now, you could say that it should have been obvious because of the things he's going through in life, but that's not completely true when you're talking about music, because it's poetry and it's the way you say things, and sometimes it doesn't exactly correlate to what you might think it will. Anyway, I'm getting off track. What I'm saying is, yes, we all knew that this was going to be about his divorce and his child support and all the things that he's going to, yeah, we knew that. But the way you tell a story can be different. It's artistic. It's how you tell it. Man, I've really gone off. Anyway, so the album opens up, it has an intro, and it really does set the tone for what the album's going to be, because it does not deviate from that sort of jazzy lounge room, ballroom type music. Now, I've seen this album be called grown folk music, and I guess I can see where they're coming from, because if you are somebody that's younger or somebody that doesn't necessarily like the slower down-tempo style of ballroom jazz, or the style of, what do you call it, big band, because this is a lot of instrumentation and it's done very well. So if you're not into that and you're not someone who generally likes this grown folk type music, you probably won't even give it that much of a chance or try to listen to the story. And you also have to listen to it, which was difficult for me, without judging the man, because if you've seen his social media posts, you know he's going through it. You know he's got some things to work through. We've all seen his meltdown videos. We've all seen his posts where he's acting like a teenager, and this is a man who's had problems. So you have to try and separate what you've seen on social media even from him and his music, and just listen to what he's trying to tell you. And if you do that, you can hear a man spilling his soul on a record. You can hear a man talking about all the events in his life leading up to, his seemingly deterioration of his mental health. Because that's the reason that I don't want to speak negatively of this album, is because music is your soul. And if we keep being negative to a man that really just wants the best, and he wants to be a beautiful soul, and he's trying his best like many of us are, then we're not helping him. But again, we have to try and be honest about the music and about what's being reviewed here. So again, if you are someone who doesn't necessarily like that style, you're probably not going to like this. If you're someone who's more open to music, or someone who likes lounge room jazz style music, you're gonna enjoy this. Now, the other part of my brain who listens to the lyrics, it gets a little grating after a few songs, and the fact that it's 17 tracks long and a little bit over an hour and a half of the same story and in a different way, the same style, the same everything, and it gets a little bit too much. We could have done with a shorter album, because we've heard the story from the first 10 tracks. We get basically the picture. And again, it's not to say that, maybe he just wanted to release it, he had more to write. That's on him. He's the artist, he puts it out. I'm just here to give my 2 cents about it. And it's a little bit long. It's an hour and a half, and I had a hard time listening to this thing. And that's what I like to do. I like to take an album and try to listen to the whole thing at once, front to back, because I feel like it's only right. So, in my opinion, he could have done this in a little bit more cohesive of a package. But I have to also say, the music on this album is very well done, from the intro to the last track. If you're into that style of music, you're going to enjoy it. Again, full stop, front to back. The instrumentation on this album it's great. It's top tier, it's top notch. His voice sounds the best that it's sounded in a long time. He sounds soulful, he sounds pained, everything that you would expect from this type of an album. Now, his cover of Wildflower is a very good cover, very well done. His voice is on point throughout the entire track, and it brings like a new life and energy to the cover, because it's not his original song. It is a cover song. It's a song dedicated to his mother, and it comes with a short film. It's all well done. Now, it is a little bit weird seeing Tyrese in the full beard and everything get up, because it's very 70s aesthetic. Everything about this album, it's beautifully, painstakingly put together. You can tell that Tyrese wanted this not to be his comeback album, but to be a labor of love, and to be something that he was extensively proud of moving forward. So I don't want to talk too much about this album, because honestly, there's not much more I can say about it. If you were into this style, you're gonna listen to it, and if you're on the fence about it, my advice is just go listen to it. Make up your own mind. If you don't know if this is the same artist, it's not the Sweet Lady artist. It's not the one from Watts or Open Invitation. A new direction for Tyrese. This is something that I feel like he's been on the verge of exploring, and now he's actually doing it, and he's telling his story, which this is all we can do, and I fully encourage him to do that. And for me, though, I probably won't come back to this album too much. I don't think any of these even made it onto my Spotify playlist, and that's nothing against him or the album. That's just the listening that I do personally. So if I'm going to grade this album, it's a bit long in the tooth. It's a bit grating on the lyrics and the story and what he's trying to tell you. The sound isn't my type of sound, but I don't want to give too much derogatory to that. So I'm going to go with a C+ on this album. It's not something I'm going to come back to, but it's definitely better than his previous works. And if you're on the fence, or you're an old Tyrese fan that maybe you want to, give it a shot, you might like it. You never know. And let's leave the hate at the door. Try to be constructive and honest, and let's take care of each other out there from 2025. All right. So until next time, everybody, I got new reactions, new album reviews coming. So just hit subscribe, like, comment. Let's talk about this stuff. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Peace.